Okay, so I'm gonna move us into a different mindset now so we can process everything that we've received and also just do a little bit of a reflection of why defund. Right before we enter the space of re-envisioning what a new budget for a Providence would look like, where we will actually look at the budget and allocate and decide what our priorities are. So let's just take a moment to follow me with this short slideshow. I'm just going to show this because I found it a really great way that a community member, an artist, spoke to the priorities of why we're having all these conversations. I'm going to share screen. Great. So I'm just going to quickly present. Please feel free to look at the screen or just follow my voice, whichever way you feel you would like to engage, because Zoom meetings are sometimes can be overwhelming. So why defund? The goal of defunding is to reimagine, like Nerva had said, stronger social service networks and a world without police. I'll share, after this meeting, we can also share a few more reading resources if folks are interested. So I'm going to read through this statement by Gregory Flores, Afterwardness on Instagram, because it really tells the story of why this is important. So please follow my voice. Defunding the police means refunding social services. Through the last several decades, social service funding has been gutted, and those jobs and dollars have been outsourced to an unqualified police force. Instead of having a variety of well-funded tools to handle all the social problems we face, we now have one overfunded tool, the police. In some cities, funding for programs and nonprofits working in crisis intervention and prevention are being cut. In other cities, it's mental health funding, addiction services, hospital budgets. And in many others, school lunch programs, after-school programs, and schools themselves are taking the hit. Meanwhile, police force budgets keep increasing, like we've seen in Providence. Every year in the past few years, the budgets have increased. The problem is, when the only tool you have is a jail cell, every problem becomes an inmate. When the only tool you have is a gun, every problem becomes a target. With no better way to handle these issues, poverty, addiction, and mental health become criminalized, as do many of the other manifestations of our broken systems. Using the cover of these social issues, the state furthers their violence against Black bodies in the name of law and order. Defunding the police will not end racist policing, but it is a first step toward removing some of the power and presence they wield against Black members of our community. What we get in return by investing in social services is proper care for folks most in need, those who are unhoused or in poverty, those who are struggling with addiction or mental health trauma, better schools, and safer streets. Issues that are faced overwhelmingly by our communities of color due in no small part to racist policing. By moving resources away from police, whose budgets often account for 1/3 or more of cities' entire budgets, and toward social services, we all benefit. Police no longer have to manage a myriad social problems, and those in need receive care that actually benefits instead of criminalizes them. So when you read calls to defund the police, know that it is not a radical idea. It is simply moving resources to where the needs of our community actually exist. So what's the goal of this? The goal is to enter as a community together into a gradual process of reallocating these resources over time, to fund and taking those resources, funding, and responsibilities away from the police and toward community-based models of safety, support, and prevention. And we know in Providence, there's such a beautiful and powerful network of social service providers and organizations and community leaders that are experts in a lot of these things. So I wanted to show this. A resource that y'all can look up if you're interested is MPD 150. They did a lot of work and do a lot of work in Minnesota and have compiled information and resources. That's something I'll share with you all after the meeting, but just putting this out there. And I just want to put a little center on this. To really fight crime, we don't need more cops. We need more jobs, more educational opportunities, more arts programs, more community centers, more mental health resources, and more of a say in how our own communities function. So I really want to thank the 3 council people that we are sharing space with. It's a total honor to open space because we are all called to be better residents and better citizens by understanding how these processes work so we can have a voice. And I want to close this off with a quote from Adrienne Maree Brown. Why do we do these things in the first place? Well, my hope, she put it in the best way, is that we all can create an abundance of futures, of ways to manage resources together, to be brilliant together. To me, that's what democracy actually means, when we actually get to say, where do we want our resources invested? So, close us off, imagine a world without police. We live in a society where almost every social problem, from noisy neighbors to broken taillights, has become a point of police intervention. The result is an epidemic of harassment and violence. But what if we found other ways to solve our issues? What if we rolled back police power and abolished the institution entirely? Here you are invited to think and act with other visionaries and find ways to achieve a police-free world.